Hi, my name is Charlie Sault, and I'm going to be explaining to you in this video my investment strategy, which was investing in stocks with a high PE ratio. So what exactly is the PE ratio? Well, it measures the ratio of dollars earned per share or earnings per share as a function of the price of that share. So essentially a stock's current price over its previous 12 months earnings. That's one downfall of it. You have to use ex post returns, and these don't necessarily signal what's going to happen in the future, but it's a fairly well-known ratio. Going for high PE stocks is a aggressive tactic. There's a lot of risk and return involved, and you have to be industry specific when you're looking at these stocks. It's very hard to compare the PE ratio across industries, as each industry tends to have their own specific characteristics of what the number should be. And so taking a power company and mixing that with an oil and gas company, you can't compare the two PEs just by themselves. You see where it lies within the industry to work out whether it's a high or low stock PE ratio. And so I picked PE ratios that are high, as this signifies growth of revenues and earnings, and I wanted to get a good return on my portfolio. And this ratio, the PE ratio, was popularized by Benjamin Graham, who was one of Warren Buffett's mentors. So my portfolio consisted of 5 stocks: Nike, Chipotle, BP, American Express, and eBay. Tried to make sure they were all in different industries so that I wasn't comparing two numbers that were pretty much the same. As I said, all high PE for their industry. Not necessarily the same numbers, but within the industry, out of the firms in that industry, they all had high PE ratios. And I was taking down the stock prices from the 2nd of February through May the 1st. So here's the results I got over the period. We have the companies down the right, the old price, the new price, and the percentage change over the period. Nike performed the best at 10.37% return over the period, and Chipotle performed the worst. Actually lost almost 12% over the period, and that stock alone really caused my overall average to go down, as you can see here, to just 0.73 of 1%. So not a lot of return on this portfolio at all over the period. eBay performed well, but then Amex performed poorly, and they almost cancelled each other out. And then Nike and Chipotle cancelled each other out, and BP was kind of in the middle. As a result, the two negative numbers brought me down a lot and ended up with a poor rate of return. Now, why might that have been? Well, a high PE ratio can also mean that a stock is overpriced. And what could have happened was I picked these stocks with high PE ratios, and then the market saw that they're overpriced, and subsequently the price dropped, resulting in my poor return. There's also the factor that I just measured this over a few months, so the time period wasn't very good, didn't have a lot of observations, and as a result, you don't get as accurate information as you would if you took it over, say, a few years. Another thing, sorry about that, EPS calculations, they're an accounting term that is open to interpretation, and what I mean by that is various firms calculate EPS in a different way. So when you're getting a PE ratio, you can be getting the same ratio but calculated a different way, and so they're not uniform across the board in that sense. And so there's always that kind of asterisk, I guess, next to this ratio, which could be a factor. And extreme strategy. What I mean by that is I went for the highest PE stocks out of each industry that I chose that I could find. And as you know, that take on more risk, so you have the chance of either bigger gains or bigger losses. And as seen in my numbers there, I didn't have very good, I mean a tiny gain. So I took on a lot of risk and got absolutely nothing out of it. And lastly, the PE ratio by itself is not a very good predictor of how a stock is going to perform. It's good if you use it in conjunction with other things, but by itself, it doesn't really tell you much apart from how much your stock is paying out compared to the price. Thank you very much.